There is a peculiar mystery that often surrounds those with a rare disposition of the soul. You may have met them. Perhaps you are one of them. These are the individuals who, despite the passing of years, seem to retain an inexplicable freshness, an aura of youth that defies the calendar. When you look into their eyes, you see a paradox. There is an ancient depth, a weariness of having seen too much, and yet the face remains untouched, as if time itself has decided to move differently around them. Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychiatrist, did not just study the mechanics of the mind. He was a cartographer of the soul. And within his exploration of psychological types and the unconscious lie the keys to unlocking why the rarest personalities, those who dwell primarily in the inner world of intuition and feeling, often look significantly younger than their age. This is not about genetics. It is not about skincare routines. It is about the physics of the psyche and how the orientation of your spirit dictates the way your body bears the weight of the world. To understand this, we must first look at the concept of time perception in the Jungian framework. For the majority of the world, specifically the sensory-dominant types, time is linear and physical. It is a series of hard events, one after another, leaving physical marks. Stress is a tangible force. But for the rarest type, often aligned with what Jung called introverted intuition, reality is not found in the ticking of the clock, but in the realm of possibilities, symbols, and the collective unconscious. These individuals do not live fully in the concrete now. They live in the what could be, or the what does this mean, because their psychic energy, their libido as Jung termed it, is withdrawn from the harsh objectiveness of the external world and directed inward. They are shielded from the friction that ages the rest of the population. They are like travelers who walk slightly above the ground, sparing their feet the roughness of the path. When you are constantly interacting with the abstract, with the eternal images of the unconscious, you are bathing your mind in a stream that is outside of time. The unconscious, Jung argued, knows no time. It is eternal. If your dominant function anchors you there, is it so hard to believe that your physical vessel would reflect that timelessness? Consider the burden of the persona. Jung described the persona as the mask we wear to interact with society. It is a necessary tool, a compromise between the individual and the world. For many, this mask becomes heavy. It becomes rigid. It calcifies into the lines on their faces as they age, freezing them into the role of the tired worker, the stern parent, or the cynic. But the rare personality maintains a fluid relationship with their persona. They often feel like observers, actors in a play they didn't write, but are politely participating in. Because they do not identify fully with their social mask, they do not suffer the same hardening of the features. There is a playful detachment, a neoteny of the spirit. Neoteny is the retention of juvenile traits into adulthood. In psychology, this translates to a mind that remains open, plastic, and curious traits we associate with children. This psychological flexibility prevents the face from settling into the permanent scowl of judgment or the rigid lines of bitterness. They look young because they have not allowed the world to solidify them into a statue of their social role. If you find yourself resonating with this sense of detachment, of being an observer in a world that feels too heavy, consider subscribing to our channel. We explore these depths weekly, and your presence helps us keep the philosophy alive. However, this youthfulness is not merely a lack of stress. It is a byproduct of a specific type of tension. Jung spoke of the tension of opposites. The rare personality holds a tremendous tension within the battle between the shadow and the light, the individual and the collective. You might think this internal war would age a person, but paradoxically it acts as a fire that purges. Those who repress their inner world, who ignore the call of the unconscious, tend to accumulate psychic toxins. These unacknowledged frustrations manifest physically in posture, in health, in the heaviness of the countenance. The rare type, the one who is constantly introspecting, constantly processing, is doing the work of psychic digestion. They are clearing the debris. They do not let the bitterness of the past rot in the basement of their psyche. They bring it up, examine it, feel it intensely, and then release it. This emotional agility acts as a fountain of youth. They feel more pain than the average person, yes, but they also release it more completely. They do not carry the grudge in their jawline or the anger in their furrowed brow. Their face returns to a neutral, open state, the state of the child who has cried and is now ready to play again. We must also address the archetype of the puer aeternus, or the eternal child. While Jung often used this term to describe a neurosis, a refusal to grow up and take responsibility, there is a positive aspect to this archetype that the rarest personalities often embody. It is the archetype of renewal. The puer is connected to the spirit, to the divine spark that refuses to be crushed by the mundane reality of taxes and deadlines. The rarest type maintains a secret garden within a place where the rules of the adult world do not apply. This connection to the divine child within keeps the eyes bright. Have you noticed that when this personality speaks about their passions, their ideals, or the future of humanity, their face lights up? That is the puer energy. It is a surge of life force that literally animates the features, increasing blood flow, widening the eyes, creating a vibrancy that makeup cannot replicate. In a world that demands we become cynical adults, as fast as possible, holding on to this connection with the divine child is an act of rebellion. And your body rewards you for it. Furthermore, there is the factor of introverted sensing, being the inferior function for these types. In Jungian theory, the inferior function is the Achilles heel, the weakest point. For the intuitive dominant, this means a certain disconnection from the physical body. While this can lead to clumsiness or forgetting to eat, it also means they are less identified with the body's aging process. They simply do not obsess over the material decay in the same way. There is a phenomenon where the body follows the mind. If the mind is convinced it is merely a vessel for an eternal spirit, the body seems to get the memo to hold itself together a little longer. They are not grounded in the harsh reality of, I am getting old. They are grounded in the reality of, I am becoming. That shift in perspective from decaying to becoming changes the biological signals of stress sent throughout the system. This leads us to a darker yet equally potent reason for their ageless appearance, the mechanism of dissociation as a survival strategy. Many with this rare personality structure grew up in environments where they felt misunderstood or alienated. To survive, they learned to retreat into the inner citadel. This is a fortress of the mind, when the external world became too loud, too aggressive, or too painful. They didn't fight back physically. They vanished mentally. They retreated to a place where they were safe. While chronic dissociation is a trauma response, the mild controlled ability to detach from immediate stress preserves the physical form. It is a form of hibernation. When the storm rages outside, the bear sleeps in the cave. The rare personality sleeps in the cave of the mind while the body goes through the motions. This conservation of energy is remarkable. While others are burning their adrenaline fighting traffic or arguing over petty grievances, the rare personality is miles away, floating in a nebula of thought, their body relaxed, their cortisol levels unspiked. They preserve themselves by not fully participating in the chaos that ages everyone else. But there is something deeper than mere avoidance of stress. There is the quality of the gaze. If you observe the rarest personalities closely, you will notice that their eyes do not possess the predatory sharpness often valued in the corporate world. Instead, they have what can be best described as a soft focus. This is not a lack of attention, it is a diffusion of perception. Jung noted that those in touch with the collective unconscious are not just looking at the person in front of them, they are looking through them. They are seeing the archetype, the suffering, the hidden child within the adult. When you look at the world with this level of radical empathy, your facial muscles relax. You are not scrutinizing for threats. You are searching for connection. This habitual softening of the gaze prevents the formation of crow's feet and the deep furrows between the eyebrows that come from constant critical judgment. Judgment creates tension. Acceptance creates flow. And these individuals, having spent a lifetime navigating the complexities of their own inner darkness, are often far less judgmental of others. They offer a mirror of acceptance, and in doing so, their own face remains a smooth, unblemished surface. This brings us to the great paradox of the old soul. It is a term thrown around loosely, but in Jungian psychology it points to an individual who has an innate connection to the Senex archetype, the wise old man or woman, even from a young age. These are the children who preferred sitting with the elders, who pondered death before they learned long division. You would think that carrying the weight of the world's wisdom would age a person, but nature enjoys irony. Because the rare personality felt 80 years old when they were 7, they do not feel the desperate need to grow up in the traditional sense when they actually reach adulthood. They have already inhabited the space of the elder. Now, as they physically age, they feel free to finally explore the youth they missed while they were busy contemplating the nature of existence. They age in reverse. While their peers are frantically trying to prove their maturity with status symbols and serious demeanors, the rare personality is finally buying the toys they never played with or exploring art with a childlike wonder. They have paid their dues to gravity early, and now they are floating. If this exploration of the soul's timeline resonates with your own journey, or if you recognize this paradox in someone you love, take a brief moment to like this video. It helps these signals find the others who are walking the same reverse path. Furthermore, we must look at how these individuals interact with the concept of social time versus soul time. The Greeks had 2 words for time: chronos, which is sequential clock time, and kairos, which is the right critical moment, God's time. Society runs on chronos. You must graduate by 22, marry by 28, promote by 35, and retire by 65. This relentless ticking clock is the primary source of aging for modern man. It creates a low-level chronic cortisol drip that destroys collagen and grays the hair. The rarest personalities, however, are notoriously bad at adhering to chronos. They live almost exclusively in kairos. They bloom late. They change careers at 40. They start families when they are ready, not when the calendar dictates. By rejecting the artificial pressure of the social clock, they bypass the stress that weathers the average person. They do not feel behind in life because they are not running the same race. When you remove the fear of running out of time, you remove the very thing that makes time heavy. They walk through life with a lighter step because they are following an internal compass, not an external stopwatch. This rejection of the external standard extends to the very concept of certainty. Certainty ages the mind. When a person decides, this is how the world is, this is who I am, and that is how things must be, they undergo a process of psychological calcification. The neural pathways harden. The face sets into a permanent mask of knowing. But the Jungian explorer, the intuitive feeler, lives in a state of perpetual ambiguity. They are comfortable with the unknown. In fact, they prefer it. They know that the psyche is a vast, unexplored ocean and that truth is a shifting horizon. This state of not knowing, of remaining a perpetual student of life, keeps the spirit porous. It keeps the eyes wide with curiosity. Curiosity is the antidote to aging. As long as you are genuinely curious about what tomorrow might bring or what a new idea might mean, you cannot grow old. You can only ripen. The rare personality looks young because they have not finished forming. They are in a constant state of becoming, of molting their old skins and emerging fresh. While others are building fortresses of certainty to defend their egos, the rare type is building a tent ready to move whenever the wind of the spirit blows. There is also a biological component to this introversion that Jung touched upon indirectly. It is the preservation of the battery. Introverts, as Jung defined them, lose energy in social interaction and gain it in solitude. The rarest types are often the most introverted. They require vast amounts of alone time to function. In this solitude, they are not just sitting idly. They are regulating their nervous system. They are engaging in activities that induce a flow state: reading, writing, creating, or simply daydreaming. Science now tells us that flow states are incredibly restorative. They lower blood pressure, reduce stress hormones, and release dopamine and endorphins. while the extrovert might be out in the world exposing themselves to the wear and tear of late nights, loud environments, and social friction. The introvert is in their sanctuary, essentially placing their body in a restorative stasis. They are not burning the candle at both ends. They are tending the flame, carefully shielding it from the wind. This lifestyle of protective solitude acts as a natural preservative for the physical form. Moreover, consider the nature of their desires. Jung observed that the process of individuation becoming one's true self requires a shift away from collective values. The collective values of our time are materialism, status, and competition. Pursuing these values is an exhausting, high-friction endeavor. It requires aggression, sleeplessness, and a constant fight-or-flight mode. The rarest personalities often have a natural disinterest in these things. They are not driven by the hunger for power or the accumulation of objects. Their hunger is for meaning. Searching for meaning is an internal process. It does not require you to battle your neighbor, because they are not constantly engaging in the dominance hierarchies of the primate world. They are spared the physical ravages of that warfare. Their faces do not bear the scars of greed. There is a serene quality that comes from wanting less of what the world sells and wanting more of what the soul provides. This lack of grasping, this looseness of the hands, translates to a looseness of the features. They are not clenching their jaw against the world. They are observing it, analyzing it, and trying to understand it. However, we must step carefully here. It would be dishonest to paint this picture solely with the brushes of admiration and envy. There is a shadow to this light. The preservation of the vessel often comes at a steep price, and that price is a profound sense of isolation. The reason the rare personality looks as though they have not been touched by the world is in some tragic sense because they haven't been. There is often a glass wall between them and the immediate tactile experience of life. While others were diving headfirst into the rough currents of existence, getting bruised, scarred, and weathered by participation, the intuitive feeler was often standing on the riverbank, watching the water flow, understanding the hydrodynamics, but remaining dry. This untouched quality is physically beautifying, but psychically isolating. They look young because they have been preserved in the amber of their own introspection. They have spared themselves the damage of collision, but they have also missed the warmth of the friction. The smooth skin is sometimes a testament to a life lived at a distance, a life observed rather than fully inhabited. This brings us to the unique physiology of high sensitivity. Jung noted that introverted intuitives often possess a nervous system that is more delicate, more finely tuned than the average person. This is not a weakness, it is a specialized evolutionary adaptation. Because their sensors are set to high, they are easily overwhelmed by loud noises, bright lights, chaotic environments, and toxins. Consequently, they instinctively avoid the very things that accelerate aging. They are rarely the ones found in smoke-filled bars at 3 a.m. They are rarely the ones sunbathing for hours, baking their skin in UV radiation. They retreat from the harsh glare of the sensory world because it hurts them. Their lifestyle of avoidance, avoiding conflict, avoiding harsh environments, avoiding the rush hour of life, acts as an accidental yet highly effective preservation strategy. They stay fresh because their biology demands they stay hidden. They are the orchids of the human species. They require a specific controlled climate to survive, and in that climate they bloom indefinitely while the dandelions outside wither in the sun. But perhaps the most profound reason lies in their relationship with dreams. For most dreams are discarded scraps of the night forgotten by breakfast. For the Jungian explorer, dreams are a second life. Jung taught that the dream is a direct communication from the self, the organizing center of the psyche. The rare personality spends a significant portion of their existence engaged with this inner world. When they sleep, they are not just resting, they are traveling. They wake up carrying the residual energy of the numinous, the awe-inspiring feeling of having touched something greater than themselves. This contact with the divine source within provides a form of nourishment that food cannot supply. It is a psychic vitality. When you are constantly reminded night after night that you are more than just a biological machine, that you are a soul on a vast journey, it becomes impossible to succumb to the weary cynicism that drags the facial features downward. There is a light behind the eyes that comes from seeing things that others do not see. It is the look of someone who knows a secret. Yet living with this secret can be a burden. It creates a dissonance. You look in the mirror and see a face that looks 25, but you feel a soul that has lived through 1,000 years of history. You feel the weight of ancestors, the grief of the collective, the patterns of history repeating themselves. This disconnect can be disorienting. People treat you according to your face, not your soul. They expect naivety where there is wisdom. They expect energy where there is exhaustion. You are constantly underestimated, constantly having to prove that your insights are valid, despite the youthful vessel they come from. It is a strange form of camouflage. You walk among the crowds unnoticed, a wizard disguised as a novice. And perhaps that is the point. Perhaps nature keeps you looking young so that you remain approachable, so that the hardness of your wisdom does not frighten away those who need it most. You are a Trojan horse of depth. Your appearance invites people in, and only then do you reveal the galaxies inside. And this is where the responsibility lies. If you possess this trait, do not view it merely as a genetic quirk or a lucky roll of the dice. It is a signal. It is a sign that your energy is meant to be conserved for something other than the grind of the industrial machine. You are built to last because your work takes longer. The work of the intuitive, the healer, the artist, the philosopher. This is the work of a lifetime. It does not follow the quarterly returns of the business world. It follows the slow, rhythmic breathing of the cosmos. You look young because you are running on a different fuel source. You are not burning the finite coal of the ego. You are tapping into the infinite solar power of the self. So if you look in the mirror and do not recognize the age on your driver's license, do not panic. Do not think you are failing at being an adult. You are simply succeeding at being a spirit. You are the evidence that the mind shapes the matter, that the soul sketches the lines of the face. Do not let the world rush you. Do not let them force their heavy linear time upon your spiral journey. Keep your wonder, keep your softness, keep that secret smile of the one who knows that this reality is just a thin veil over a much deeper mystery. If this analysis has helped you understand the stranger in your mirror, consider joining this archive of souls by subscribing. We are building a sanctuary for those who think and feel too much, and your presence here strengthens the foundation. Ultimately, the rarest personality remains ageless, not because they are fighting time, but because they have made peace with eternity. They understand consciously or unconsciously that the body is just a temporary house for a guest that has been here since the beginning of time. And when you host a guest of such magnitude, the house tends to glow from the windows. Walk gently with your burden and your gift. The world is old, tired, and in desperate need of the youth that only an ancient soul can bring.